Oh, that's right. I'm live here today. I am live here today. Thank God somebody told me. And you're doing a talkie again. Yes, I like those silent movies. Yes, there you go. If anybody was watching, they'd see me just click the button. Now I'm live. So yes, good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing here today? I am good. Hope you're good. And it is another day right here. So we got a lot to talk about here this morning. I think we should get right to it. What one of the topics I wanted to talk about here this morning was this acetaminophen, Tylenol. Do you believe that Tylenol is responsible for autism? Well, this is what President Donald Trump delivered yesterday along with his team, saying federal officials yesterday announced a possible association between the development of autism and a pregnant individual's use of acetaminophen, the active ingredient in the common over-the-counter pain reliever Tylenol. They recommend pregnant individuals limit the use of the drug in cases such as high fever or severe pain. In other words, this is another thing they just want us to suffer. See? This is what this is about. No, I jest. Of course, nobody wants anybody to suffer. But the Food and Drug Administration said it will update safety labels with the risks of acetaminophen. However, the agency added that while there may be an association between autism and the drug, current scientific evidence has not established a causal relationship. Scientists have researched a potential link between autism and acetaminophen for years, but studies have delivered mixed results. The FDA also approved another drug as a possible treatment for autism. So, autism we know has been on the rise, but you know what I would just say this. There are so many factors in our world. There are so many factors on what we eat, what we take, all these different things. I think it is, and then it could be that it is the Tylenol, acetaminophen, and I would think that if one is pregnant, that one probably wants to be careful with that. But there are so many different things that affect the fetus, affect how the mother feels, and all this type of stuff. It really is something that needs, I'm a little concerned in the fact that they just came out. I sometimes think the Trump administration, while I think they are doing amazing things, and I do believe they are doing amazing things, some of the things like the border and some of these things are absolutely over-the-top terrific. But sometimes I think that in their effort to show that they are doing so much out there, they kind of go ahead with things with maybe not that much backed up from it. Tylenol is definitely saying that they do not feel this, that they have been studying on this for years too. So I think that we should see a little bit more on what they have to prove it. And I would think that Tylenol should be on board with this if this is true. One of our texters said, I would feel better about the autism and Tylenol announcement if the person running the agency had a background in medicine or science. I think Tylenol has a better background and proven history in medicine than Kennedy. Well, that's a big statement right there. And why would, in truth, why would Tylenol want to cover this up would be another question I would ask. Tylenol is so effective in taking care of fevers and pain and all this type of thing, if it was something that a pregnant woman should not take because of the risk, why would Tylenol not be the first one out there to say it? Surely nobody wants to have a child born with autism, and if there's something simple, like whether you take Tylenol or not, that would be something to consider. But what my point was, there are so many outside influences. How to narrow it down to Tylenol, I think is, I think is a little searching for an answer. You know, the NHC, the National Health Organization, all of these, they have so much power. They also have so much responsibility in deciding what is or isn't. We've just been going through this with vaccinations. Do we need this vaccination? Do we need that vaccination? You know, you look back over history, and we look like the polio vaccine. I remember that polio was not something, when I was growing up, was still very much in a possibility, right? So, and today we have, I don't know if we have any cases of polio here in the United States. And of course, Rotary's big push was to annihilate polio, get it off the globe. And I don't know, they may have succeeded. If not, they're very, very close to it. But without vaccines, we never would have been able to annihilate that. It's just like some of the childhood diseases that used to be a standard right. Chicken pox, measles, the mumps. Do you ever really hear of any child getting the mumps? I don't think so, but maybe, because I'm not in the child realm, but you just don't hear the same things that we used to, and that is because of vaccines. So I think it's a slippery slope when we start saying that, oh yeah, acetaminophen, and which is Tylenol. What's going to happen when we still have children being born with autism, and these women are swearing they never took a Tylenol at all? I don't know. I'm not an expert in this, but it's kind of scary. I agree with our texter that how do we know? And if Tylenol was the culprit in this, and since Tylenol says they have been studying this, then why would Tylenol not be on board with saying, yeah, you know, it is a possibility? And our another texter said, Tylenol is not new. Tylenol has a proven track record. Autism numbers are increasing every year. And so if we've had Tylenol all along and women have been taking Tylenol, how do we know? We don't know. So I think it deserves a lot more. I think, again, the administration wanted to get out there and show that it was solving a problem. And is it really the agency? Or is it President Trump saying, give me something I can go out there and say that we have solved that? I do understand. President Trump wants to show that his administration is on it, is working hard to develop and give results to the American people. But sometimes we just can't be that bold. I just don't think we can be that bold. So, while it might be a good idea not to take Tylenol if you're pregnant, I'm not sure that really is the answer. As I said, autism rates keep going up. Are more women taking Tylenol? I don't know. So I hope that the Trump administration might just slow down and have provable facts rather than innuendo and just trying to say, yep, we got it, and this solves it. And what happens when it doesn't solve it? President Trump, what do you think? So anyways, that's my story on the autism and the Tylenol link. I certainly, if I was pregnant, would say, okay, I'm not taking Tylenol, just because it's a very small probably price to pay for seeing if that. But if your child still has autism and you haven't taken Tylenol, what is the answer then? And I don't know if that will solve it or not. Anyways, just wanted to bring that to your attention here. Bring that to your attention. All right, in other news, moving on here this morning. In other news, what do we have? Once you touch the biographies of human beings, the notion that political beliefs are logically determined collapses like a pricked balloon. That's the quote for the day. Once you touch the biographies of human beings, the notion that political beliefs are logically determined collapses like a pricked balloon. Walter Lippmann, A Preface to Politics. Now that, my friends, is an interesting one. Do you think that politics is logical? No, I would say politics is not logical. Politics is not logical. So let's see. Right now, Trump has just arrived at the United Nations, and instead of coming down an escalator, they're going up an escalator as they head for him to give his speech to the United Nations. That should be interesting. What do you think about that? That should be interesting. All right, let's move on and talk about some other topics here this morning. Oh my gosh, it is so hard to keep up with everything that is happening, but we do have some interesting topics to talk about. Let me see if I can find them. Yes. Nope, not that one. Turning point. Yeah, we're at a turning point in this world, aren't we? We certainly are. Not that one. Did I put that one down? All right, let's check this out. You know, Helene is coming up on 1 year anniversary. 1 year anniversary. And I think it's going to be interesting. And I think it's going to be interesting to see where we're at, to see the cost, and to remember what we were doing. I for one was headed to Maine, and at even though the power was out at 5 o'clock in the morning and all this stuff was happening, I was still saying, well, I could still go. Read the reports. I really wanted to go. I was like, no, I don't think so. The power's out. This is happening. I guess you'll just have to stay. And I am certainly glad I did. But I remember that morning sounded like a freight train was coming right by the radio station here. And I also remember how blessed we were to get power back very quickly here, because we were 1 block off of the 72 bypass, and they did get the power back on for people to be able to get gas. So anyways, I want to have more stories about that. If you've got a good story you'd like to share, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. So please be sending me texts or emails, or just leave a voice message. It'll get converted to text if you call our new number, 864-332-9355. That's 864-332-9355. All you have to do is call that number. You can speak it. You don't need to text it, and it will convert it to a text, which makes it a lot easier when I'm on the air to be able to see it. So please do that. I would love some comments about waking up after the hurricane had blown through Greenwood, and what we saw, what we felt, how long it took you to get back to some kind of normalcy, and how many people are out there that are still not back to being normal, meaning their houses. I was talking to somebody the other day. Their house still is not fixed. They've hired a contractor. They've had some issues, this type of thing, and their house is still not finished. So I would love to put that out there for you to maybe check out and give me some input into. All right, so I want to discuss this Holloman story that I brought up yesterday that I thought maybe was going to just fall beneath the waves, but it looks like it is not going to fall beneath the waves. Tom Holloman said he did nothing criminal. Now, see, this is the slight of politics. Tom Holloman, he is the head of immigration, ICE, and he is the one that is in charge of getting people deported that need to be deported that should not have been here legally. He's been on the front lines of this fight for many years, not just a new to this job, but he was in it with President Trump the first time. And so this story, Laura Ingraham confronted White House border czar Tom Holloman on Monday over an MSNBC report that allegedly he took $50,000 in cash from an undercover FBI agent. And she said, "Tom, I want to give you a chance to address this article that came out over the weekend," said Ingraham during an interview. It was on our always reliable MSNBC, and they said you took $50,000 in cash in a bag from an undercover FBI agent to help them with government contracts in Trump's second term. She noted the DOJ said they concluded there was no criminal wrongdoing, but nevertheless, that story is out there, and I imagine you want to respond to it. Here's his answer. I want to see what you think about it. "Look, I did nothing criminal. I did nothing illegal," responded Holloman. "It's a hit piece after hit piece after hit piece, and I'm glad the FBI and the DOJ came out and said, you know, that nothing illegal happened, no criminal activity." He says, "You're talking about a guy who spent 34 years enforcing law. I mean, I left a very successful business that I ran to come back and work for the government again. I'm back on a government paycheck. Not only did I sacrifice, my family sacrifices. I make sacrifices every day. I got more death threats than anybody. I got a security team around me, but guess what? My kids don't. My wife don't. I mean, I haven't lived with my wife in months because I don't want her to be here with me right now. So after all the sacrifices, after serving my nation for all these years, they want to come out and dirty me up. And it's not going to end. There's a hit piece because you know what? Tom Holloman is not going anywhere. Tom Holloman isn't shutting up. Tom Holloman's going to keep doing what he's doing because working with President Trump is the greatest honor of my life. We're making the country safer again every day, and we're going to keep doing it." So, what do you think? He didn't categorically deny he didn't take the $50,000. According to MSNBC, Holloman had been the target of an investigation until Trump's Department of Justice shut it down after he allegedly took the $50,000 from an undercover FBI agent in exchange for helping them win government contracts in a second Trump administration. It says the FBI and the Justice Department planned to wait to see whether Holloman would deliver on his alleged promise once he became the nation's top immigration official. But the case, MSNBC has reported, the case indefinitely stalled soon after Donald Trump became president again in January, according to 6 sources familiar with the matter. In recent weeks, Trump's appointees officially closed the investigation after FBI Director Kash Patel requested a status update on the case. So, Hours after the White House said Holman did not take the $50,000, he doesn't answer whether he did or not, but simply says he did nothing criminal. It is an interesting story. I don't know. What do you think? 864-229-7984 is the legacy number, or 864-332-9355. If you'd like to weigh in on that side of it, you certainly can. You certainly can. Love to hear from you. It's a great line because you get to say your voicemail and it turns it into a text. So if you'd like to use that one, or if you'd like to use the legacy line, 864-229-7984. I think this story, I don't know, this story sounds like it has possibilities, but who knows? Who knows? Sometimes we don't really know what really happens, and while he categorically didn't say, I never took any money from an FBI undercover agent, he certainly talked about his loyalty, and his loyalty is a lot to the president. I'm not denying that. But I just thought I'd bring that up, that while this story I thought was maybe one that was just going to fall under the waves, it doesn't look like it is. And it looks like he's going to need the full force of the FBI, the CIA, the CIU, all these organizations that, and President Trump is probably, I wonder if he will make a statement on that. So that's another story for us here. All right. Moving on, one of the stories that I did want to talk about is the new study that is out there. Actually, it's a poll showing how the political candidates for governor are shaping up. This is a good story. There also is quite an interesting story about wiretapping and FC votes, their former person that was in charge. If we have time, we'll get into that. If not, we'll get into that the other day, another day. But that's a story that I think that is going to really quite have some legs, and there's a lot of moving parts on that one. I may not even be ready to talk about it. But I did want to talk about what is happening in a latest poll that is out there on who is coming out ahead in the governor's race. Well, Pamela Evatt has made a huge investment, and we thank you very much, Pamela, for doing that, because we have gotten some of that largesse. I'm sure you have heard a lieutenant governor's political ad for governor right here on WCRS. So she's made a big, and it's paying off. Pamela Evatt has moved almost to the top of the list. According to the latest poll, a new survey from co/efficient are to be believed, Evatt trails frontrunner Nancy Mace. Can you believe Nancy Mace is in the lead? I can, and I'll tell you why I can. Because she's got name recognition, because she's a loose cannon, because she says outrageous things. And when you talk to normal everyday people who aren't as engaged in an election process as maybe you and I are, you find that people just go for a name they recognize. And Nancy Mace, she does have name recognition. But according to a poll, Evatt trails frontrunner Nancy Mace, so she has polarized in her ads by just 1 percentage point, and is actually edged out ahead of South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. Mace drew 19% report, Evett drew 18% report, and Alan Wilson drew 16% support among likely GOP voters per the survey. Here's the thing. This is supposed to be likely voters, likely GOP voters. Did you hear what I said? Likely GOP voters. We're not putting this out for the general population. We're just putting it out for GOP voters. And likely voters are still saying they like Nancy Mace. I am afeared of what could happen to our state. I don't think I've made any secret about it. I believe that Pamela Evett is the best choice for governor for the great state of South Carolina. I'm equally going to say that I think Nancy Mace is not the choice for South Carolina. What do you think? 864-229-7984. That's 864-229-7984. That's the legacy line. If you want to call or text on that one, you certainly can. If you want to try out my new line, 864-332-9355, that means all you have to do is pick up the phone, make the call, and it will convert it to a text. And I think that is pretty darn cool. So, Nancy Mace has 19% support. Evett drew 18% support. Wilson drew 16% support among likely GOP voters per the survey. 5th District Congressman Ralph Norman was in 4th place with 10%. And I love this. Scandal-scarred State Senator Josh Kimbrell, you know, he had that business deal with his business partner, and the business partner is saying things weren't right there, was a distant 5th at just 2% support. More than a third of the GOP electorate remained undecided, according to the survey. So this is her best performance on a Palmetto State poll, barring one outlier. Surveys taken prior to a recent advertising blitz showed her languishing in mid-single digits, narrowly trailing Norman, but nowhere near Mace and Wilson. So this has been a big boom. Her campaign, radio and TV, and I'm sure social media, are paying big help to Pamela Evett. You know, it always surprises me that Pamela Evett, before she did this advertising campaign, did not poll better. And I'll tell you why, because I think ultimately she is the best qualified. She's traveled the state. She has the relationships. She knows the people. She's a business person. She can pull all of this together in a very good package. However, it is going to be the voters that will make that choice. Now, in other news, the South Carolina GOP, Drew McKissick was here back on, what was it, the second Monday, was it the 8th maybe? And they want to close the primaries. It seems a little unbelievable to me that they have not been able to accomplish this when you have a completely Republican stronghold on both the House and the Senate. But they have not been able to do it. Now, they are hopeful that they will be able to do it this year, and do it early enough that it will affect the upcoming primary. What does this mean? Well, when you talk about closing a primary, it means that only registered Republicans or registered Democrats, depending on which side of the field you are, would only be able to vote in a primary. So many times in South Carolina, their fear of the GOP is that Democrats, because they know they don't have any possibility of winning the office, may cross over in a primary and vote for a candidate that Democrats feel is more to their liking. And so that is a subject that has been constantly been harped on by the Republican Party. Now, there is another article that has popped up that you may not be aware of, but one that definitely deserves having some conversation about. This is an article having to do with the SC votes leader. This is something that I'm not sure that I'm even really ready to talk about it, but they are last week they actually fired a former SC votes leader, and now they're saying that a wiretapping investigation involving former SC votes leader expands. Excuse me. And this is an article that they are. This is on Fitz News. An investigation into alleged criminal wiretapping by Howie Knapp, the former executive director of the SC Election Commission, scvotes.gov, has expanded to include a second former official at the agency. You know, I think this is like unbelievable. Here we are, South Carolina, supposedly a law and order state, right? And here we have this investigation. Now, quote, "It is an investigation." It says, in addition to Knapp, agents of the South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division, SLED, are investigating former SC Votes Deputy Executive Director Paige Salonich in connection, with these allegations. SLED was requested on Thursday, September 18th by the South Carolina Election Commission to investigate allegations of wiretapping involving former director Howard Knapp and Deputy Director Paige Salovich. Public Information Director Renee Wonderlick. What is wrong with these people having just regular names? Renee Wonderlick confirmed to Fitz News. SLED's investigation is active and ongoing at this time. Knapp was ousted from his job as the Palmetto's top election official last Wednesday, September 17th. At that time of his ouster, he was also staring down a separate SLED investigation into allegations of misconduct. It was not immediately clear whether Salonovich was linked to the initial investigation. However, sources familiar with the situation have claimed that the two were using taxpayer time and resources to further, oh my God, a romantic relationship, one that has turned the agency into a toxic soap opera. We will continue this story because, as it says, it's a soap opera. So that means as South Carolina turns, a new soap opera for us here, this story will probably move very, very slowly. So they will have, oh my gosh, they will have intrigue, I'm sure some sex, probably some money involved, I do not know. Dozens of other taxpayer-funded expenditures reportedly tied to the alleged relationship between Knapp and Solange are receiving further scrutiny in the aftermath of his termination. Yes, as South Carolina turns, let me write that down so I can refer to this tomorrow. As South Carolina turns. And this is what we have at our SC Votes SC Votes. This is a travesty. This is a travesty. There are a lot more details than what I've given you. I just wanted to maybe whet your interest in something that is happening right here in our state, a state that claims to be so proper, and yet we have, what is it, R.J. May has dealing in child pornography. He was in the House of Representatives, I believe. You've got Josh Kimbrell over here fighting his own battles with his former business partner who is claiming, I believe it is fraud or something along that way, that he took money from the company that they had together, funneled it into his own company. And now we have this at the SC votes, something that should be beyond reproach. Don't you agree? scvotes.gov, this has to be rocking them a lot. And I don't know, folks. This is some of the stuff that we are looking at in our own state. I am sad to report this. Very sad to report this. All right, so we will talk more about that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more coming up about that. Anything else here this morning? 864-229-7984. Let's see, we just got a voicemail. Nancy Mace is going to bring it home. What? You think so? Who is this? Oh my God, that's what this message says. Nancy Mace is going to bring it home. Bring it home? You mean she's going to be the next governor of this state? Well, that will be another travesty, I believe. Another travesty. All right. Well, see, that's how easy it is to use this Google, this new source that we have. 864-332-9355. 864-332-9355. All you got to do is dial that number, say it, and it converts it to a text for me. And that means just like now, I could go ahead and see it. Well, I wonder which side of the aisle this person's on. And I would like to know more about why you think Nancy Mace would be a good governor. If I am to interpret your message is Nancy Mace is going to bring it home, or is she just... Nancy Mace is going to bring it home. That's what it says. Okay. Or is Nancy Mace, this is a good discussion, is Nancy Mace just going home? My contention, and anybody that's asked me about this knows that I've said this. I'll say it publicly on the radio. I need to get Nancy Mace on the air so we can have this discussion. But my contention is Nancy Mace has kind of tainted herself in Washington, D.C., and so that technically she's looking for an off-ramp to get out of politics in Washington, D.C., gracefully, without saying I'm not running again or having a big defeat. Now, coming to run for the governor's office, that's a laudable job. But I can't believe the people of South Carolina would vote for her. I think this was a ploy to get out of Washington, get back to South Carolina, and then some board, some business will decide that Nancy Mace would be a good vocal spokesperson and will maybe hire her for the job. Either that or maybe she'll sit down and write her memoir. Yes, write her memoir. Okay. That would be a hot seller as compared to Kamala Harris's lack of focus and everything. In fact, for those that want to buy Kamala Harris's 107 days of, joy, flub-ups, and the experience of a lifetime, you certainly can. Unlike the book that I did get from somebody who sent me that book that had absolutely nothing written in it. It was great. Kamala Harris certainly has gone out there and kept her Kamala Harrisism's alive and well. Today the book drops. I think it dropped at 12:01 a.m. And I know the anticipation of that book is that book is something else. All right, here we go. I got a response from my texter. She will get the vote of every other crazy person in the state. Fortunately for us, they remain in the minority. Yes, I think you're right. Fortunately, we have a primary. We're not going for a direct election. Wouldn't that be interesting, though? Wouldn't that be interesting? You know, where is it? In Alaska, I think it is. Alaska, they don't actually have a primary, do they? They have, everybody can just run, and then the people that get the top votes, actually, I guess they have a runoff on who actually wins. But here in South Carolina, we have a primary, so we end up with one Republican, one Democrat, and maybe one independent would be I guess, the max of it. But crazy. I just can't believe that Nancy Mace could be the Republican governor, could make it to Republican governor. I believe that I don't know, maybe she could go to work for Duke Energy or some of these big, maybe a big hospital company or, maybe something like that. Maybe that's where she might end up as a spokesperson. I think that could be interesting. Here we go. I had another email, another text coming in here. What are they saying? I would rather vote for Penny. Yeah, I would rather vote for Penny, too. She at least she does it by sheer looking at you and deciding, are you a worthy person? She has more sense than Nancy Mace. I said it. I'm sorry. But anyways, I firmly believe that Alan Wilson is a worthy contender. I believe that Ralph Norman is really in the same boat as Nancy Mace. I think he's looking for an off-ramp. Now, he is a very big foe because he has a lot of money. And money makes political campaigns win or lose. That is for sure. Now, you've got to have a good platform and some of this other stuff, but it is the money. But when Ralph Norman, Penny's just saying, Mom, I just got voted in as governor. Let's get off the air. Anyways, let's see. I do believe that Ralph Norman is also looking for an off-ramp out of Washington, D.C. If you may remember, he was supporting big-time Nikki Haley for president. Not that that's a good or a bad thing. It's just that's the boat he was in. And I do think that he has gone up against Trump several times and probably has decided he doesn't need to take that fight on for re-election. Why not go for governor? I'm going to tell you, my personal choice is Pamela Abbott, the lieutenant governor. She'd be able to run this state on day one. And although the governor does not have the power as they do in some other states, she is definitely able to shape policy. She has the connection. She knows how to run it as a business. This scourge that she's talking about, the Doge, only she's called it scourge, is definitely a way for her to make her mark on our state. Truthfully, there's big talk about doing away with the income tax here in our state. The only way that you can actually do away with the income tax is to reduce your costs. And these are things that need to be looked at across our state. And if they were able to reduce our costs, maybe there would be a possibility of doing that. Anyways, I've probably said too much this morning. Anybody else want to weigh on Nancy Mace for governor here? What is she saying? She's the pink heels Trump? I don't think so. But then again, maybe so. Maybe so. So this is what we've got going on here on WCRS Radio. If you'd like to weigh in on it before or after the show, if you've got a story you'd like me to look at, if there's a hot tip that you'd like me to know about, you can always call and leave a message on our new text/voicemail, and that voicemail will be converted to a text. It makes it fun for me because I get to see what y'all are thinking and saying. Again, that number, 864-332-9355. That's 864-332-9355. So, with that being said, this afternoon we are going to have Miss Edith Childs on the air with us on Meet Me at the Diner. I do hope you will tune in for that. This has been a long time since I've had Miss Edith Childs on the air with us. We're going to be talking about the Little River Missionary Baptist Association with their celebration of 152 years of committed and dedicated service to our surrounding communities, and the release of a commemorative book titled The Journey of Little River Missionary Baptist Association from 1873 to 2025. They are the Little River Missionary Baptist Association is down to 87,000. That was as of the other day when I talked to her. And they're closing out the books, I guess, this afternoon. So maybe we'll find out exactly where they are. Well, they have paid off their building. That was a big stretch when they went to build that up in Hodges. And they're down to only owing 87,000. At least that was the other day. Who knows how much more money they have raised to pay this off. So I just want to let you know. Oops, looks like we got another email, another text coming in on our new number, 864-332-9355. Oh, another vote for Penny. Well, let's see. What's that? It says we got another one. All right, well, let's see. Nancy Mace brings too much negative drama. That's what I'm talking about. But I also don't think she has done the work that it requires. The work that it requires to be a governor in our state. Yes, she's bombastic. Shoot, there's even naked pictures of her out there. So I just cannot see it. I just could not see it. But she is at the head of the heap. But the question is she at the head of the heap because she has name recognition? Yes, I would say so. The other thing that you have to be careful about in a race like this, you certainly don't want to peak too early. After all, none of these candidates they've proclaimed, but none of them can officially sign up and pay the fee that it is to run for the governor until March, and then the primary is in June. And so we will see. Now, I will say this, that one of the things that I would think would be important, because I know there's a lot, from a Democratic standpoint, if they don't get the primaries closed and people cross over to vote in the Republican primary, would Democrats vote for Nancy Mace? That is a question to ponder. All right, I'm Ann Eller. This is WCRS Radio. As always, it is my great pleasure to be here on the radio with you. We've got a lot of good things going on. I've got so much research, I don't know. I try to keep up with it, but I sure could use y'all's help in letting me know what you think and what stories you'd like for me to cover. I'm I'm big into research. I love checking out all this stuff. So, wow, it's almost 10:26 in the morning, and that's going to do it for me. This is WCRS Radio right here in Greenwood. Make sure you write that number down, 864-332-9355. You can call or text, and that number will convert a call into a text, which is kind of cool. Okay, with that being said, this is the end of the show. Cue the sign. Okay, the end of the show. And cue the music and that, my friends, will do it for today. Okay, we got to find out what's wrong. Okay, there you go. Take it away. Thank you, Penny, for telling me to get off the air.
Keep on laughing. Give us a call. You gotta keep on caring. As long as you've got a voice, don't ever stop. As long as you've got truth, don't ever stop. You're on the air. As long as you've got love. What's on your mind?